I've written quite a bit about open banking in my time as business editor of Accounting Web, and I thought that this year's Accountex, with all these different vendors and stakeholders under one roof, would be the perfect chance to really understand what's happening. One of the more intriguing theories around open banking is how the lines between accounting and banking are starting to blur. So I went and I spoke to challenger banks, accounting software providers, incumbent banks, and also third-party providers to really understand how these changes are happening, why are they happening, and how they will affect banking and accounting products. So Patrick, a lot has been made about the open banking regulations, but what does it actually mean for a product like Cashplus?
Yes, a very good question, and you'll probably hear quite a sort of range of interpretations. It's fairly wide-reaching in terms of the implications. So for companies like us, it presents a huge opportunity because it provides access potentially to customer data from other sources, so that we can actually offer, and companies like us can offer a more wide-reaching service that goes across platforms and products.
Yes.
So for the consumer, what it really means is more choice and better functionality, and ultimately, as well as having more choice and more competitors to the banks like us coming into the market, it also forces the high street banks to offer a better service ultimately, either themselves or through other third parties that might actually do that by putting a layer on top of what the banks are offering.
One of the more intriguing open banking stakeholders is Fluidly, a AI-influenced forecasting tool founded by Caroline Plum. I spoke to Caroline about Fluidly's role as a third-party provider, how it slots into open banking at large, and how open banking influences its product, and how it blends between accounting and banking. So Caroline, it's still early days with open banking, and we're still really trying to figure out what exactly is happening. But from your perspective at Fluidly, what's happening product-wise, what's going to change, and what really do you see as Fluidly's future after open banking?
I mean, I think it's been really interesting to see that traditionally accounting has been this sort of backward-looking activity, and finance has been this forward-looking perspective into a future. And I think you're starting to see the overlap between those two areas. And open banking really creates the opportunity to mirror to attach the real-time nature of finances into accounting systems. We've had that for some time with bank feeds and other accounting software, but I think with payment initiation coming through open banking, we're really going to start to see a much more integrated approach. So I think what we see in accounting software is often possible to get the bank feed already, and often that bank feed data is good enough. But not all customers have bank feed data going into the accounting package, although I think they'll see that rise. But often there can be a bridging point between the last reconciled date from the bank in the bank for the accounting software and today's date. And so the open banking allows us to actually access the current position of a bank account as well.
So we've talked a little bit about the blurring between accounting and banking, but let's look at an actual case study. RBS Natwest, the incumbent banking giant, is in the process of acquiring FreeAgent, the Edinburgh-based accounting software made usually for freelancers, as the name suggests. So we went to go speak to Hayden Thomas, the head of business development at RBS Natwest, and we spoke to Kevin McCallum from FreeAgent to understand how this partnership is developing and what it will actually offer to businesses, accountants, and just generally banking users. So Kevin, accounting product, banking product, do these terms actually mean anything anymore?
I think that they do at the moment, Fran. I think increasingly they might not. It does feel like the last few years have seen a real convergence in the relationships between accountants, practice software, and also the banks. So things like the introduction of bank feeds and the kind of value that we see as software providers in having this kind of very much more current and accurate feed of data has led to us developing a lot more direct relationships with the banks. You add on top of that initiatives like open banking, and obviously that opens up the data even further. So at the end of the day, accounting is really about financial transactions in and out, so it makes a lot of sense that these now come together very much more closely than they have in the past. The banks have a role to play, but so do the accounting vendors, and like we've seen so often in the world so far, there'll be different flavors, different types depending on the type of business or the requirements or the particular choice that customer, client, or even accountant might make. The banks themselves will take different steps and different strides in terms of how closely they integrate, but I think most of all there'll be a kind of unified platform whereby there would be a reduction in the number of things that people log into. And somebody will choose the right one for them based on their requirements, but contained within that I think will be the banking component, the accounting component, but also the accountancy advisory component and the filing, the tax, etc. as well.
I think it's still early days in the open banking. I don't think we've seen the revolution yet, but I think for me there's a natural synergy between the accounting and the banking. You know, the two, if we can get the feeds right and everything pretty smooth for the end user, then you know that's definitely an opportunity to enhance things. The easier we make things for accountants, the better they can serve their clients and actually become accountants maybe rather than bookkeepers as perhaps they've concentrated far too much on in the past. So I think there's a merging of it. There's a synergy. It's you know, for me it's more partnership and kind of working together rather than acquisition and takeover, I guess.
But open banking isn't just about big incumbent banks like RBS NatWest. A whole new raft of challengers and challenger banks, as they're commonly known, like Tide, have entered into the market post-open banking. What do these new challengers actually offer, and how do they merge accounting and banking products? What are some accounting features or ways that like accountant can use Tide?
So what we're doing is we're on our way to having bank feed integrations with all of the accounting softwares in the market. We very much want to do that. In the meantime, we also have an account reader for accountants, so it's completely free to use. They can request to see their clients' transaction data and then download that in a CSV file that's optimized for whichever software they use. So again, the kind of solution we're answering there is you won't need to chase your client at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter. You just log in online, download their data, and get on with the job that's really important for you.
So it's still very early days for open banking, and it's not quite possible to predict where it's all going to go. But even in its infancy, open banking has already started to create new partnerships, new products, and new opportunities for third-party providers, challenger banks, and even the incumbent banks. What's going to be interesting to see is whether the lines between accounting and banking and all these different spheres will blur and eventually merge into one. It's something that I'll be keeping an eye on, and I hope you'll join me on Accounting Web. Thank you.